sometimes your plans for the long weekend change along with your entire production schedule because history is happening, and you need to acknowledge that you are living in the middle of it. Hi, my name is Katrina Ames. Welcome to Feminist Fridays, brought to you on a Wednesday. Let's talk about the Equal Rights Amendment. First, what even is the Equal Rights Amendment? Well, the Equal Rights Amendment, sometimes known as the ERA, is a proposed amendment to the U.S. Constitution. It is designed to guarantee equal legal rights for all Americans regardless of sex. The full text of this amendment is pretty short and remarkably straightforward. Section 1, equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. Section 2, the Congress shall have the power to enforce by appropriate legislation the provisions of this article. Section 3, this amendment shall take effect 2 years after the date of ratification. The ERA is important because gender equality isn't a part of our Constitution. 80% of Americans mistakenly believe that men and women are guaranteed equal rights. I'm sure we could find other instances where 80% of Americans are wrong, but the point is that the only right the Constitution explicitly extends to everyone regardless of gender is the right to vote. That's the 19th Amendment, and even that is complicated because voting laws vary from state to state, and several states chose not to acknowledge every woman's right to vote, particularly ignoring the rights of women of color. And if you want to learn more about that, you should watch my video on the history of voting rights. You might be asking yourself, what about the 14th Amendment? Doesn't that guarantee equal treatment under the law? And the answer to that is sort of, but not explicitly when it comes to women. Women are not explicitly mentioned under the 14th Amendment, but during the 1970s and 1980s, future Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg persuaded the Supreme Court to extend the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment to prohibit unequal treatment on the basis of sex. So for now, yes, we're technically okay, but there are a lot of strict construction constitutionalists on federal benches, and more are being appointed all the time. The ERA makes what is currently set by Supreme Court precedent a part of our Constitution that can't be undone. 80% of Americans believe that men and women are guaranteed equal rights under the U.S. Constitution. 94% of Americans support an amendment to the U.S. Constitution that does actually guarantee equal rights. The Equal Rights Amendment is that amendment that seeks to guarantee equal rights. Americans believe this is already a value expressed in the Constitution. Many more want it to be a part of our Constitution and actually express it. Maybe it's finally time to write it down. The best time to add the ERA to our Constitution was probably when we originally wrote our Constitution. Of course, there was also the time when it was originally proposed in 1923, or when it passed both houses of Congress in 1972 with a 2/3 majority. And literally every moment, because we've had so many opportunities to do this. But since we haven't explicitly confirmed equal rights yet, we may as well do it now. How did we get here? If the ERA passed Congress with a 2/3 majority in both houses in 1972, why isn't it a part of our Constitution now? What are we waiting for? After a proposed amendment passes Congress, it needs to be ratified by 3/4 of the states in the Union to become a part of the Constitution. Congress originally set a deadline of March 1979 for 38 states to ratify the amendment. This is a timeline of when states ratified the ERA. Within a year of Congress sending the ERA to states for ratification, 30 states had ratified it. Then things began to slow down as opposition to the ERA became more prominent and more organized. Specifically by Phyllis Schlafly, who founded Stop ERA and made arguments surrounding and supporting traditional gender roles. She argued that the ERA's passage would lead to women being included in the draft and alimony and the tendency for mothers to receive child custody during divorce proceedings. The ERA has also traditionally been opposed by anti-abortion groups. In the midst of this slowdown, Congress chose to extend the deadline for states to ratify the ERA until 1982. However, in 1980, the Republican Party chose to change their platform and end their support of the ERA. Without bipartisan support for gender equality, things did not improve. In fact, no new states chose to ratify the ERA under the extended deadline. The ERA had initially been ratified by 35 states, and Congress did not re-extend the deadline. In 2017, Nevada became the 36th state to ratify the ERA. In 2018, Illinois became the 37th state to ratify the ERA. January 2020, Virginia became the 38th state to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment, meaning 3/4 of the states in the Union have ratified this constitutional amendment. Unfortunately, that doesn't mean we're done. We don't get to just have this. For one thing, there's the 1982 deadline to consider. Democrats in the House and Senate have consistently introduced legislation to extend the deadline tied to the ERA. But in January 2020, the Justice Department released an opinion that concluded that because the deadline has passed, the effort to get those 3 states to ratify the ERA was pointless, and the entire legislative process must be restarted for the amendment to be legally binding. However, this is just an opinion, not a law. And typically, constitutional amendments don't have ratification deadlines. For example, the 27th Amendment was ratified in 1992, but was passed by Congress originally in 1789, along with 10 other amendments that we know of as the Bill of Rights. It is expected that federal courts will decide if the 1982 deadline for the ERA matters, and if these last 3 states just acted too late. For now, we are celebrating a symbolic victory with Virginia's recent passage of the ERA. We have waited generations for this change. Now we are still anxiously waiting to find out if change is actually going to happen. Thanks for learning about the Equal Rights Amendment with me. And if you want to see more, you can subscribe, watch another video of mine, or support me on Patreon. And hey, I love you.